Hi guys, thank you guys so much for being here today. This is Taking Back Friday, and this is my little knitting vlog where I basically talk about making time to make things. This is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, and so today I want to talk about trying to find ways to get things done with kids. Hi there, thank you guys so much for being here today. My name is Felicia Lowe, and I'm the founder and creative director of a hand-dyed knitting yarn company called SweetGeorgia Yarns here in Vancouver in Canada. Now, I started this vlog, a couple months ago, and I also started an audio podcast called The SweetGeorgia Show several years ago now, all around this topic of how to get things done, how to get the things that you want to get done. And it's made so much more challenging sometimes when you have kids sort of in the mix. So I started the podcast maybe almost 4 years ago, and I started it for kind of selfish reasons. I wanted to interview women that I admired. I wanted to interview women and mothers that I admired, and I was seeing that everybody was getting so much stuff done. They were prolific with their knitting designs. They were prolific with their dyeing. They were prolific with all the things that they were able to get done while also being parents. And I was a new mom at the time and really struggling with trying to figure out, how do I get anything done when almost every minute of my day is taken up by other things, by other priorities, by family responsibilities. So I absolutely love being a mother, and it's wonderful and very fulfilling, of course, and wonderful and great to have kids. But it's really hard to take care of that itch that you really want to scratch, that creative itch where you want to make things or you want to create things, and it's really, really hard to do when you don't have any time or space in your brain to do those kinds of things. So I have been working on for the past couple of months the next dyeing course that I'm trying to release for the School of SweetGeorgia. And so I have been finding it really challenging to find time to work on this because I have lots of other responsibilities. I have obviously responsibilities to my family and responsibilities to my team at the studio and things like that. And so trying to carve out time to work on this course has been actually really, really challenging. So when I was in Vegas, I bumped into Liz Gibson, who is working on the online weaving courses at Yarnworker. So if you visit yarnworker.com, Liz Gibson, she's building sort of an online school as well, but specifically for rigid heddle weavers. And so we caught up and had a conversation about this, and she pointed me in the direction of this one book called Deep Work. And it's a book by NEWPORT, and he is an academic. So he works in the university college system. He's an academic, and he's writing research papers and things like that. And so this book was about how he was able to find ways to work more deeply on his career, on his research, and produce more and be more prolific, and to find ways of accomplishing that when there's so much noise and so much busyness and so much other stuff going on. So she pointed me towards that book, and on the flight home, I got that on Audible and listened to it the whole way home. And out of that book, I think I've sort of come up with a couple of different strategies for finding ways to carve out time to work on this project, this School of SweetGeorgia project, to find time to work on my own personal weaving projects, to find time to work on my knitting projects, to find time to claim back time to make the things that I really, really want to spend time making. And to be able to do that while also being a mom and being present and taking care of kids and all these kinds of things. So I want to share with you guys the 5 strategies that I've sort of come up with for my particular situation, just to try to make things work for my life. And maybe it might be useful to you. I know that I've received lots of emails in the past from other moms who have sort of found this topic resonated with them because they also found it really challenging to be able to be creative while also trying to take care or raise a very, very young family. So I've incorporated a lot of strategies and tips and ideas from other mums who have gone through this same sort of evolution. And I found it very, very inspirational to talk to these women and to learn how they get things done. And so hopefully maybe somebody out there who's watching this might also find it useful. So here are the 5 strategies that I have been trying to incorporate into my working, living, daily, everything life. The first one is to schedule time for deep work. When I'm talking about deep work, I'm talking about Cal Newport's version of deep work, which is to work without any distractions. So no social media, no email, no checking things, no notifications going off on your screen, none of those things happening. Like when I work and when I really, really concentrate, I work with dead silence. Like I don't even listen to music when I'm working. I am just focused on the thing that I'm doing. And so I think that I've been actually very, very lucky because even as a mom and staying at home with my kids, I have been blessed with wonderful in-laws, my kids, their grandparents, who are able to watch them 3 days a week. So 3 days a week, I get hands-free time to just focus on the work that I'm doing. And so those days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are the days that I crunch through and get tons and tons of things done for SweetGeorgia and for the school. It feels like those days, every minute of the day is precious and every single minute of the day is scheduled for something. So I try to reserve all of the deep work thinking, writing, really content development time for those 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'm really, really thankful to be able to have that time to focus on my work. The second strategy that I have is for the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have our 2-year-old, Nina. She's with me all day long. And then starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I also have Russell, our 4-year-old. So I have the 2 of them all day long with me. And so I have to figure out what I can actually get done while also taking care of them. And I remember pretty much the very first podcast interview I ever did was with Amy, who owns a knitting yarn shop in Paris. And now she also owns La Bien-Aimée, which is a hand dyeing company also in Paris. And she was the very first interview that I ever interviewed for the podcast. And she was a mom. She has 2 kids as well, 1 boy, 1 girl. And she talked about being a business owner and also raising her 2 kids. She said specifically how she really, really tried very hard not to be on her phone or on her laptop when she was with her kids. She wanted that time with her kids to be focused on them and what they were doing. And when I interviewed her, I was a very, very new mom. And so I always took that advice as the gold standard. So even now, 4 years later with my kids, every time I'm around them, I try very hard not to have my phone around, not to have any computer work going on or anything like that. So I have to find things that I can do with them, that involves them, that doesn't involve any sitting down at the computer or emails or checking things or all of that kind of stuff. So very often we take those days to run errands that we need. So I will take Nina to the studio with me, and while she's with me, we can catch up with some of the staff there and, answer some questions, have quick conversations. We can't stay very long because she doesn't have that kind of attention span, but we can do a little bit of stuff, just catching up with people and things like that. So that's what I try to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And also we'll run errands and pick up supplies that we might need for other days. If we need to go to the craft store, if we need to go to the yarn store, if we need to do any of those kinds of things, she comes along with me and we do those things together. I really try for those days to really just go with the flow, see what happens, be really flexible. If we don't end up getting anything done, then we don't. And I try not to get frustrated about that kind of thing. So on those days, if I get, 2 rows of knitting done, then that's how much I get done. And I try to look at it with a perspective that I'm just grateful for those 2 rows of knitting that I managed to get done. And I try to have no expectations about those days. Now, my third strategy is to find other times of the day, like to work really, really late after the kids go to bed, or to wake up super, super early before anybody else has got up. So when I read the Deep Work book, Cal Newport, the author there, so he talks about how you have a set amount of capacity in your day to be able to make decisions. So early in the morning, you're able to make a lot of really great decisions. And then by the afternoon, you've sort of exhausted a lot of your capacity to make smart decisions. And so then you start to not be very productive and, trying to decide on things, trying to move ahead, move forward with projects is very, very difficult later on the day because you just don't have the capacity to do that anymore. So working late at night after the kids have gone down to bed is really challenging because by that time, I'm pretty much brain dead. But if that's the only time there is in the day to get anything done, I have to use that time. So what I try to do is I try to reserve tasks and activities for that time of day when I don't need to use my brain that much. So I don't write late at night. I don't try to create new content late at night. Late at night, I'll do things like sit at the loom and weave, or do some knitting, do some very simple potato chip knitting, or I'll sit at the loom and tie ends, I'll tie knots, or I'll do some threading, and just very slowly, meticulously. There's no decisions that have to be made at that point in time. I just have to sort of process the work. So that's the kind of thing that I will find time to do during those windows. I mean, if I'm going to weave, those things need to get done. Tying knots needs to get done. Threading the heddles needs to get done. Tying on, all of that stuff needs to get done. Even weaving needs to get done. And that stuff doesn't need a lot of decision-making powers. So I can do that quite late at night and not have to worry about making poor decisions. The fourth strategy that I have is to knit as they play or weave as they play. We're actually really, really lucky that we have a playroom right next to my attic. And so they can play in the playroom. Theoretically, they can play in the playroom while I am working or knitting or weaving or whatever. And so I've also been able to take my knitting, which is, of course, super portable. I take my knitting with me wherever I go. And so if I take them to a play group or I take them out to the park or whatever, I can bring my knitting everywhere and then just knit a few rows while I'm watching them. So luckily, knitting is amazingly portable and I can take my knitting anywhere and I can do those things while they're doing their activities. So that's been really super helpful. And it's been really good to feel productive about being able to get some knitted things knitted and making use of all that time that could be lost. I also knit while we're driving. So I knit in the car while my husband's driving. I don't knit and drive at the same time. That wouldn't be good. And finally, my fifth strategy is probably my favorite strategy, is to try to involve them in what I'm making and involve them in what I'm doing. So I'll get Russell to help me wind a skein of yarn into a ball. He really loves that. He's really obsessed with concrete mixers. So when he looks at the Swift and he sees it turning, he thinks it's like the drum of a concrete mixer. So he likes to do that while I wind the ball. So he's kind of unwinding the Swift as I'm winding the yarn onto the ball. And it's fun because he can do it together with me. I've also had both of them sit with me at the loom and they will help beat while I throw the shuttle, or, Russell's also started to learn how to throw the shuttle and then beat at the same time. But just to be able to sit next to me and they do it with me, they feel like they're participating in something. They're working with mama, and it's fun to be able to see them learn how to do these things. One of the gals that comes to our knit night at SweetGeorgia, she talked about how her daughter never knew a day where she didn't know how to knit. It's pretty crazy. Like, she just had her daughter sit on her lap, and while she was knitting, showed her how to make those knit stitches. And so her daughter grew up never not knowing how to knit. She's always known how knit stitches were made. And so that triggered in my mind that it was possible to do all of these things with the kids and have them, watch, observe, participate, enjoy with you. It's actually quite amazing to watch them get interested in the things that are happening on the loom. And so after dinner, our kids will say, "Mama, can we go up to the attic and do some weaving?" And it's the most amazing thing to hear them say, and it's wonderful. And so it's with that attitude and that perspective that I've been able to involve them in a lot of the things that I'm working on, and also therefore be able to get things done while they're also participating. I think it's actually the most magical mix of two things. I get to be the mom and I get to show them and create things with them and teach them things, but at the same time I'm also getting my things done and also satisfying that creative need that I have as well. I hope that these strategies might be somewhat useful to you. You might find them helpful if you're also the parent of young kids right now. And I saw on Instagram women who were weaving baby wraps, who were carrying their babies on their backs while they were also doing their weaving. And all of these people, they were all inspirations to me that it is possible to mix the two. It is possible to have it all. It is possible to have your kids and enjoy them and also be able to make the things that you want to make. I was reminded that my own weaving teacher said that she took up weaving because she had kids, because she wanted something to do alongside them while they played. So I know that it is possible to mix the two. I know that it is possible to make things and to also spend time with your kids and enjoy them. So I hope that some of you guys might have found some of this interesting or helpful or useful. I know not everybody has kids. I know not everybody who's watching will have the same struggle that I'm going through, but maybe for some of you guys who are going through this situation, you might find this a little bit helpful. So if you like this video, please hit like, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe and join us. I try to shoot new videos every week to post here, and I'm always interested in talking to you guys about what you're doing and how you're managing to make things. So if you are a mom out there and you have young kids or you have grown kids, please tell me, please give me some inspiration or ideas or new strategies on how you manage to get things done while you are also being a mom. Or if you are not a parent, but you're still finding it difficult to find time to make things and things like that, please, I'd love to hear about how you're managing to make time to make things as well. So with that, I think I'll leave it there. Yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye for now.